I want to start off with a story that just blows my mind beyond recognition. And if anybody is a regular on Showvio, and if you've ever watched my show, Casey in 60, you know that there was a time several months ago where I was disgusted with the Congress, Republicans and Democrats, because they were playing politics with the Zadroga Bill. The Zadroga Bill, of course, was the bill that was to help pay for medical expenses for those people who got sick after spending time at Ground Zero post 9/11 back in 2001. And unfortunately, it took a long time before the bill was finally passed, but it was indeed passed. And now comes word, somehow, I don't understand how, but a doctor testified to this and says that it's impossible to prove at this point that anybody who worked at Ground Zero was capable of contracting any form of cancer. And as such, any first responder who now has cancer and who spent time at Ground Zero is ineligible to receive a penny of help for their medical expenses because they have cancer. I don't know what kind of doctor this guy is, and I don't know what country he comes from. He's probably an American. But this guy should be thrown to the lions, because I cannot even begin to imagine what would possess a doctor to testify to this when it's clear as day and obvious that so many people, men and women from the NYPD, the FDNY, the Port Authority Police, EMTs, other police and fire departments from around the country who were in that area around September 11th, 2001, have contracted cancer, and they otherwise would not have if they didn't spend weeks down there without wearing masks because Christy Whitman said it was safe to breathe the damn air down there. And now these very people who sacrificed their time in many, many cases when they weren't on duty, when they weren't being paid to go down and help to remove dead bodies, have contracted cancer. And somehow this stupid federal government, which appropriated $2 billion to help pay for medical costs, will not give a penny to anyone who has cancer, because one doctor said the chances of the people who have cancer that they had gotten the cancer from the work that they did down there are nil. One doctor said this. But do you need to have a doctor, whoever the hell this guy is, to really and truly prove to the American people, or I shouldn't say to American, anybody with a brain, for crying out loud, that of course the toxins that are down there, of course the toxins that were in the air that they breathed in because they weren't wearing masks and they just wanted to find their friends who were buried under the rubble. Does it take a brain surgeon to realize that of course those toxins led to the cancer that many of these guys and women have now? And the sad part of it is that some of them are already dead. Some of the very people who went to Ground Zero without being asked. Some of the very people who sacrificed their lives for months on end to help with the recovery and the cleanup already lost their lives. And now this son of a bitch will turn around and tell you and me and the poor people who are in Sloan Kettering and who are in Bellevue or in hospitals all across the country suffering from these terrible effects of cancer. He's going to tell them, sorry, you're going to have to pay your $700,000 bills on your own. This government will not, because we don't think you really got your cancer from working at Ground Zero. It's just a coincidence that an inordinate amount of first responders just happened to get cancer in the time between September 11th, 2001 and modern times. You've got to be kidding me. And there are so many cases of this. So many cases. In fact, one case was actually covered by Channel 11 here in New York, and I'm going to show this to you right now because you need to put faces sometimes to these cases. Until you see a face of a man who has brain cancer, a rare form that required him at one point to have chemotherapy for 8 consecutive days. You can't really understand it. You have to put a face to this, and this is one of those cases. Take a look at this.
We here at Pix 11 News have been advocating for 9/11 heroes with cancer who've been told by Zadroga Law administrators that they are not covered under the $2.8 billion plan set aside for their own treatment. To get a clearer picture of what this bad news means and why it needs to be changed now, let's go up to the 8th floor of this place, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The best cancer center in the United States. Up there on the 8th floor, a hero, his doctors, his fellow firefighters, saying he's here because of World Trade Center debris. Why the federal government can't understand that, he and his family just don't know. This is the human face of the Zadroga Law letting down a hero. Firefighter Jeff Stroline spent weeks on the pile after September 11th searching for and recovering remains of his fallen brothers and others. But you see him now spending a month in medical isolation, undergoing 8 straight days of chemotherapy, followed by a marrow transplant today as part of cutting-edge treatment for a rare form of brain cancer. His only contact with his normal life is his wife, who's the only family member allowed to visit him. They say they know many other 9/11 first responders like him with cancer, and he and his wife can't figure out why the $2.8 billion Zadroga dollars can't be used to help them. So tell us, first of all, tell us this. When you heard this news about the Zadroga money not being given to 9/11 heroes who have cancer, just what was your reaction?
Oh, it's a terrible disgrace. All people that gave their lives, fighting for their lives. It's a very sad situation.
You have a very rare brain cancer, brain lymphoma. You're about to have a bone marrow transplant later today. A very brave man to be talking with us and the hundreds of thousands of people watching. How this clearly shows how important this is to you. Talk from a very personal level, if you don't mind, just how key this Zadroga money is to help save your life and the lives of others in a situation like yours.
There's a lot of other people out there in a lot worse shape and a lot worse stuff going on. I see a lot, even like Sloan. And just want to get back to normal life, you know.
Now, your wife, who is a nurse and a professor of nursing science, told us that your blood counts, your counts are low. So we won't prolong this interview. We will say this. We've been advocates for you and all the 9/11 heroes who are not getting that Zadroga money. We've gone to the top, to the president, saying, pick up the phone, let's change the situation right now before more 9/11 heroes lose their lives. To the administrators of the Zadroga money, please say it now because they're listening.
Well, we waste so much money elsewhere, and there's so many people hurting and have been killed, and that's totally, a whole new life about them or lost a loved one. And there's people going to be fighting for years to come. Need help.
We don't use the word hero lightly, and it clearly applies to you. I know that you need to rest up. We've been told that by your wife and other medical professionals here at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I'll end with this. Do you want to add anything that we have not asked you? Is there any further message you want to get across, sir?
No, I'm just going to try and get back. Hopefully everything goes healthy today, and we get back to what would be considered normal life. And not have to face this horrible, horrible thing again, and try and help other people out who are fighting the same battle.
We thank you for your bravery and for your time. I won't say anything more because the person who had the most important thing to say said it already. Reporting live from outside his hospital room here at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center on the Upper East Side, I'm James Ford, Pix 11 News.
You know, Jimmy Graham brought up, I think, the most poignant point about all of this, and that is that they are unilaterally eliminating everybody with cancer and saying that there's no way possible that they could have gotten cancer from being at ground zero, instead of doing the right thing and judging it on an individual case-by-case basis. How does this doctor know this? Has he examined all of the cancer patients? Probably not. And we know that there were toxins down there. We know that the air quality was extremely poor down there. If it weren't, why would they have closed off so many of those office buildings and kept the residents away for months at a time? And so this one guy, this one man's word, is the one who is making the final decision on all of this, unilaterally saying to all of those people, including the gentleman we just saw, we're sorry you got cancer, but fuck you. There's nothing we're going to do to help you. You're on your own, pal. Just imagine if some of those patients who now have cancer had said that on September 12th, 2001, when the call came out for people to work double shifts and triple shifts and sometimes 48 hours at a time. Imagine if they had all turned around and said to Thomas von Essen at the time, or to Bernie Kerik at the time, fuck you, Commissioner. We're not coming in. You couldn't even dream of something like that because they couldn't wait to get down there. They didn't care if they spent 4 days in a row down there without going home. Their mission was to do what they could, first to find people alive, and then to find the remains of their fallen comrades. And the remains of the public as well. It didn't mean they were just down there to find fellow firefighters or fellow police officers. They were down there to make things right. And now the federal government has turned its back on them. The sad part of it is, it's not all that surprising. It really is not all that surprising because this government does it all the time. They turn their back on people at their darkest moments, at the times where they need it the most, and it is unfathomable that this would be something that would be looked upon. And not only that, that somebody like President Obama wouldn't open his mouth and say, this is unacceptable. Or John Boehner open his mouth and say, this is unacceptable. But then again, these are the very same people who allowed the Zadroga Bill to drag on in the name of politics for months at a time. Yeah, they finally approved it. But for God's sake, it took forever to get it done. So again, the people who suffer, the people who are most affected by this are the guys who sacrificed just about everything they could to get there and to do what was right. And now, unfortunately, they're the ones who were told that they're on their own. And that just is, to me, wholly unacceptable.